Gentlemen, probably wondering why I'm sitting here in a shirt and tie. Well, that's pretty simple to explain. I'm covering what is probably and most likely our most sophisticated division. Yeah, you know it. It's the Colt Division. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going a little off script. I've done absolutely no preparation, and I'm just going to literally do it off the cuff. And the reason for that is because I've had no time at all. I just got home from work as it is right now, and I'm trying to get my act together. There's no way I can beat the deadline of tonight to do everything the way I want to. So instead, I'm just going to throw it all out there, and we're going to see what we get. It'll be a big train wreck of a mess, and if you're dumb enough to sit through it, well, you're dumb enough to sit through it. So you're going to see me looking off screen a lot because I'll be looking at my actual computer screen so I can take a gander at some of the lineups and give you my gut reactions to what's going to happen here. So last year, Driz, I'm going to start out with Driz. Team Driz has sort of faded. You know, originally, Eric, when you came into the league, I remember trading emails with Mike. We really thought, like, oh, we got a guy here. He's gung-ho. He's going to be digging deep. He's going to be a real sort of Pia as the years go on because he's going to learn the nuances of the league, and he's going to really put a lot of pressure on us to up our game if we want to stay successful. For whatever reason, that hasn't happened. I think you've been pretty busy in a career, and for some crazy reason, you think working and making money and, you know, doing the right thing in life is more important than being successful at fantasy football. I don't know. I don't understand that thinking at all, and there are people like that in the world apparently, and you're one of them. But hopefully you'll get your stuff together. You know, you'll maybe think about doing less hours or just being really bad at your job and being asked to stay home a lot, and then you can get your Driz team back online. So let me begin with your team real quick. Last year, I did jot down you finished. Actually, you finished 5-9. 5-9. Okay, I'm going to say for you to finish 5-9 this year, that would be pretty darn lucky. I've got you down at 5-9 or lower. I'm really going to go with maybe a whopping 4 wins for your team, possibly even worse, especially if you're not going to step up and manage it all. Here's why. I love your DEs. You've got some rock-solid people at the defensive end. You've got Charles Johnson, Jerry Hughes, Chris Baker, Sheldon Richardson. Those make up your DE set. Really good, solid players. You can count on great points coming out of them. Heck, you might even be starting 3 of those guys every week just to get points. Because your linebackers, they're not quite as impressive. They're okay, but not as impressive. David Harris, Laurinaitis, D'Amico Rhymes is getting long in the tooth, and you know, this could be it for him. Underperforming Manti Te'o, who I think I mentioned last year was not a great pick for you. I wasn't impressed by him. He doesn't look like he's going to continue to develop enough. And then that's kind of it. I mean, you've got a couple other names on the board, but they're not really quality, productive players. Mike Neal might be a player for you. And Jarvis Jones, I went off in another video about how Pittsburgh gets overrated all the time. They get all these extra adulation because they are so great at picking wide receivers and linebackers. Jarvis Jones was one of the names I couldn't pull up at the moment. I had Spencer I had pulled up. And again, there's another guy in that list that they had, Werlitz, who was supposed to be just, you know, this great kind of guy they were going to groom, and he was going to be the next all-pro player. And that did not happen for any of those. So I don't want to hear any more about Pittsburgh and how great they are at picking linebackers. Wide receivers, they've been better. I'll give them some of that. But, you know, they continue to hold on to Darius Hayward-Bay. I have no reason for that because the guy's got hands of stone. So they haven't developed him into anything either. All right. Back on task. You've got solid safeties. That's really nice to see. Burnett, Church, Harper, Nelson. Really, that's a great thing to have there. You went to the draft. You didn't really draft too much. You had 2 early picks. Tevin Coleman I do like, and you picked up Kevin White, who unfortunately is on the IR for you, which really kind of sucks. You've got Blackman, who's suspended from the league, of course. And then you have a couple other, most of your picks after that skip into the 5th and 6th rounds, and they're, you know, they're piece players that may or may not develop for you. When I look at your offense, that's where I get a little shaky on things and worried, and your record begins to fall quickly. Outside of Tony Romo, you don't have anybody else. If Tony Romo gets injured, your season's done. Griffin is probably finished. Fitzpatrick is a fill-in at New York Jets. They're going to keep him until they're sick of him throwing interceptions and playing, you know, cowboy out there in New York Jetland. You've got Mike Davis, developmental running back. You got Matt Forte, who's got another couple of years maybe in him. Who knows, he might start getting squeezed out of that spot because they've picked up a couple of running backs over the last 2 years to supplant him, possibly. Kendall Hunter, Who knows? He's on injured reserve. Sorry, he's no good to you. Ryan Matthews playing backup to Murray. And then Thomas Rawls back up to a backup out. Well, no, not anymore because they traded Christie out in Seattle, so he's got a shot if Lynch gets hurt. He's a good hard runner. I do like him as a runner. Jaquiz Rogers, forget about him. Terrence West got traded away. He was so good he got traded away to Tennessee of all places. I don't think they had the best line out there. I wouldn't expect too much out of Terrence West out in Tennessee. Andre Williams, a guy I personally don't care too much for. Seems like he's always injury plagued and just, he can run kind of hard, but not enough. You got a lot of guys you hear me saying meh to, a lot of mixed reaction to, and I think that's going to be a problem. You also seem to own every running back in our league. I don't know how you did it, but you got like 9 or 10 running backs. That's incredible. Clearly, you're not paying attention to the league's scoring at this point, or at least the adjustment that was made a couple years ago. On the wide receiver side, Andre Johnson, you have getting long in the tooth. Devin Smith, developmental player. He's going to learn on the job, which can sometimes help, but it's a tough spot, wide receiver as a rookie, to be fantastic at. Stephon Diggs, rookie. Rashad Green, rookie. Neither expected to be anything this year. Jericho Cotry, I don't know what he's going to do. You have him basically because there's nobody out in Carolina to throw to. So I really don't like what I'm seeing there. On the DT side, Lodolele, he's, could be stepping up this year. That would be nice for you. Your other two, Mitchell and Lissamore, are no one to really write home about. So I've got you falling to the same spot, 5 and 9, or maybe even worse. A lot of it depends on you and whether you're going to be around to manage this team or not, make trades and good pickups. So best of luck to you, Driz, and I do appreciate the bonus wins that I will hopefully get from you this year because you're not going to be managing too hard. All right, let's move on to the next guy. I've got Islanders here. Mitch, you're another one. You're getting the look from me. You're getting my teacher look and my dad look I give my boys, or people are disappointing me like, what are you doing here? You came into the league, really excited about the league, and I feel like the last few years this has been anything but something you're truly interested in. I know you run your own leagues, and I get how much time that can take, and I know you've got a lot of the things in your life, but I feel like you've mismanaged your team over the last few years in my leagues, and it clearly is beginning to show. Although I will say this year you had a couple of, well, not really, sorry, I'm getting you mixed up with somebody else. You did not draft very deep. You had all the 3 picks. You picked up Dorial Green-Beckham, who could be decent again by default because nobody out in Tennessee is there to catch the ball. Hunter is not looking like the answer. He's another guy who drops it and doesn't seem to know his routes all the time. So Green-Beckham becomes the only guy to throw to. Yes, they have some other veteran players out there, but they really want him to succeed, and I think they're going to give him every single opportunity to do that. When I look at the rest, your other pick was Chris Matthews out in Seattle. I don't know what it is. I'm not a huge fan of Seattle wide receivers. I feel like they don't throw enough out there. Russell certainly doesn't seem to find a favorite target too often. They've added a couple of big weapons out there. Maybe that will change. They'll find one guy that really, seems to collect a lot of balls. But in the meantime, I would not have wasted my time picking anybody in Seattle. But I could be wrong about that. I felt there were better people to land, especially at the 3-7 spot. But you had needs. So you have here, for quarterback, we're going to start with that. Kaepernick, Smith. Kaepernick had a real, sort of down year. He's expected to go up and up and up. I don't know. I'm not a believer in Kaepernick as my quarterback. If I haven't mentioned this before, I certainly have to other people I know. I really dislike the running quarterback. Never liked the running quarterback, going all the way back to guys like Randall Cunningham and Cordell Stewart, Slash. They all do the same thing. They come in the league, and for a little while, they're really successful. They're, these impressive types. They can run, they can throw it in the air and catch their own throw. It's amazing. And then slowly, the injuries pile up. The guys hitting them, I think, start to get in their head a little bit. They get whacked real good, and they don't want to run out there anymore and put themselves in a prone position. And then, of course, you've got coaches, you've got analysts on TV, you've got people saying, you need to learn to be a pocket passer. That gets in their head too. And then, they just slow down. NFL defenses also always adjust to whatever comes out there. So if you're a runner, they're going to find a way. They're going to put a spine you or double spine you. They're going to find a way to make you pay for being a runner. So Kaepernick in that regard, I don't particularly care for too much. I think he hurts a team that way. If he can learn to be more of a pocket passer, that will help him. He's got a whole new offense out there. I don't know what you're going to get out of him, but either way, I think he's a middling type of quarterback. Smith, middling type of quarterback. Very successful passer because he throws only short passes and the ones he knows he can make. Macklin, I think, will help him more. Kelsey is going to help him more. Maybe you get a boost out of him this year, but he's not an elite quarterback. So you've got a couple quarterbacks that, you know, they can manage your team for you. They can manage your version of the fantasy game. They're not going to give you too much beyond that, though. Maybe a couple surprise weeks in either direction. Real skunk games or real awesome games. Mark Ingram looks great. He's certainly in a good spot to grab the reins over there. He's got Spiller breathing down his neck a little bit, but Spiller really isn't a true, even a two-back running back. He's more of an, coming out of the field catching running back. He might run a few plays here and there, but I think this is Ingram's job to lose. He showed last year in a nice long run that he really can handle that reign. He may be ready to live up to his expectations. Bishop Sankey, bust, I think. He's going to have the job there until Cobb comes back. And then it's going to be running back by committee hell, I think, out there. And again, with that crappy line, you don't know what you're really getting in him. Cole Beasley, third, fourth receiver on that team. Marlon Brown, third, fourth receiver on that team. Julian Edelman, good PPR type guy. Got another good year maybe in him, I think, so he's great to have. Stevie Johnson, low on the radar, even being out in San Diego where they throw a lot, because Keenan Allen's back this year. Julio Jones, solid, good to have him. Kendall Wright, again, one of those backups I mentioned out in Tennessee. And your tight end is Jared Cook, nothing special. You've got enough players to put out there until the byes happen and the injuries happen. We'll have to see how that really goes for you. But it's not an overall rock-solid offense. I think you're aware of that. And you're going to have to make the best you can out of that. Cliff Averill, 29, getting a little older. All he gives you is sacks and not much else. So he's got to produce there for you, to be good for you. Adrian Claiborne, fill-in type for you. Cameron Hayward is your one big stud. Sorry, your second best stud, because you have J.J. Watt, the most incredible human being on the planet that we've seen in a long, long, long time. I mean, really, truly incredible. So that's nice to have. Tamba Hali, Houston, Melvin Ingram, Bruce Irvin, Maluga, and Suggs make up your linebacking core. Wow, you've got Hali, Suggs, maybe even Melvin Ingram. They're your sack type guys, and if they play big and get those, you're happy. But they're not even that reliable outside of maybe Hali. And then you've got Houston. He's a legitimate linebacker for you. Bruce Irvin, I think, will have a decent year this year. And Maluga, he's just okay. So you have a credible, in my opinion, deficit in that area, and it's really going to show up this year and hurt you. Your cornerbacks are just okay. Vontae Davis, I like him for fantasy purposes. In real life, I wouldn't want to have him on my team. Antonio Cromartie, the ultimate journeyman, just keeps sticking around and sticking around. I think out in Jets land, he's going to stick around and produce points because, they're going to be facing a lot of offense more than sitting on the bench. Tremaine Brock, fill in, and Justin Bethel. He's getting a call this year. I don't know what you're going to get out of him. You also have Sterling Moore, Robinson, Ladarius Webb, Marcus Williams. I mean, you've got enough cornerbacks here. I'm looking, I think it's 7 of them, that as long as you're picking the right guys every week, you should be okay there. On the safety side, Trey Boston, Clinton Dix, Cyprian, and Stewart comprise your safety squad. They're okay. You've got a couple of real stellar players there, studs that you picked up the last couple of years in the draft, and then you got a couple fill-in type guys. As long as you don't have to rely on them too much, you should be okay there. Your bench, Floyd, Audie Cole, Mark Peterson, and Guy Winston, bit players. They all belong on your bench except for maybe Green Beckham, who will eventually be a decent starter as the season goes on. So Mitchie, I'm looking at the team. I'm looking at the dedication from the owner. And I'm thinking Islanders, who finished 7-6 last year, that is not going to be the case this year. I think you're looking at 5-9 at best, maybe worse. Maybe you step up and you go 6-8. And I'm saying that in big part because the next team I'm going to review, Toros, actually got his act together. He actually managed to do some decent trading, some decent drafting, and he did a few pickups here and there. I think he's got a team this year, by Jove. Let's take a look at what the Toros bring to the table. So, besides a spunky attitude and a willingness to say he's got a shot at beating me every year, let's see what he's got as a team. Roethlisberger, I know last year in one of the videos I went off about my man crush for that guy, and thank you for that terminology, Cecil. I do use that from time to time when I'm talking about other men that I really respect a lot. I've changed not one iota. Still love him. Still wish he was my real life favorite team's quarterback as a Raider. I just think he's awesome. And I know there are better quarterbacks literally in the league when you look at some of the guys like Rodgers and the affinity that Brady has for getting games won. I still like him as a player more than them. And I can't really 100% define why, because the other ones win more. Let's go to your running back situation. You've got Doug Martin, who you picked up for a relatively cheap trade, and a lot of people are calling for him to rebound this year. I think that's partly true because the line is a little bit better. Certainly way more offensive weapons out there, especially on a receiver end, which is a big bonus to a running back because it's going to free him up. And I think he is running a little bit harder. I don't know. I mean, he might score double what he did last year. He had around 8 points. I think 16 points would be a very good season for him. I don't know that it's going to be much, much higher than that. Matt Jones looks like a great little pick. Certainly Washington's very high on him. Halu is gone, and Morris is sort of losing favor with the team and winding down a little bit. So I think as the season goes on, he becomes a real gem for you. Trey Mason, no big deal. Charles Sims is your backup to Martin. So your running backs, you got a couple of good ones in there, and then you got a couple who knows what. So a little thinner maybe than I thought on first impression. Wide receivers, you picked up Aguilar, and you really went high with that pick, 106. I personally would not have made that pick, but you seem to feel he's destined for incredibly great things. Philadelphia certainly can score in bunches, it seems. That system out there is pretty darn incredible. It won't be long before teams begin to figure it out somehow, I think. And they've got Matthews out there. They've got Zach Ertz. And they've got a couple of good running backs. So there's a lot of mouths to feed. And if he can learn a position, he doesn't really have to learn a position all that well. I think if he just heads straight upfield, he'll get a share of touchdowns. It's a good pick. I don't know. I would have made it at 1-6 though. Still, in time tells. That's what the big equalizer is, right? So Aiken, John Brown. John Brown, I think people are picking for a little bit of a breakout out in Arizona. We'll have to see if Palmer can stay together and do that. I think it sounds right to me that he'll step up even more. Michael Crabtree out in Oakland. He's looked okay in the preseason, but never has lived up to his potential. I read one interesting article. Somebody said he was going to break out in Oakland because he's finally getting all his stuff together. He understands the game for real now. And then you got Amari Cooper, who's going to free him up a lot more because I think Cooper is an absolute legitimate instant impact player. And so people are going to have to scope him out and lock him down. I don't know. Hard to tell. Oakland cannot seem to sustain a lot of drives. They are better. But I don't think Crabtree is more than a flex play type guy for you. Leonard Hankerson, kind of scratched my head when you made that pick. There's another big body type who's supposed to have developed and been awesome. Was picked very high, I think. Was talked about a lot, certainly out in Washington. I had my hands on him a couple times between the two leagues. Let me tell you, I've watched enough of him. He's nothing. I would not rely on him. And I know Atlanta's hurting for wide receivers, but he's just not the answer. In my opinion, again, obviously. DeAndre Hopkins, great player out in Houston. Hopefully somebody can throw the ball to him out there. That's the big rub for him. And then Torrey Smith out in San Francisco now. He provides their vertical threat. Are they going to throw deep? Maybe. We'll have to see. Fleener, Michael Rivera comprise your tight ends. So you are better than you were last year. I will definitely say that. Matt Jones, to me, is the piece that makes you better. I think as the season wears on, he's going to help a lot because you have to, really get 5 good players out there every week. Aguilar is going to take a while. I don't know if he's going to be an instant boom type player. He's got the chance because he won't be required to do a lot besides run long, and Philadelphia scores. John Brown is good. Hopkins is good. So you've got 5. But if you have injuries, you're in deep trouble. Yeah, somebody could step up and surprise on that squad you got, but I don't know who it's going to be. Let me peek down at your taxi squad. Palmer, you got Taylor. Taylor I liked. I was really hoping he would slip through the draft so I could pick him up. I think he's, who knows in Buffalo? They got three-headed monster out there, three quarterbacks who've not proven themselves. He's not terribly accurate, and that's a big barometer for me. But he is athletic, and he has won the job, and that's another big barometer for me. Do you have the damn job you're worth maybe having? Sorry, Ajayi, I wanted to talk about. You went strong to get him too. I know you made the move in both leagues to make sure you had him. You obviously put a lot of stock in him. He did not have a great preseason outside of one game, I believe. I don't know a lot about him. I'm going to be very clear about that. My feeling is that in Miami, he is not the guy until next year at best, and even then, I don't know. Will be hard to see. He looks like a good running back physically, but is Miami going to be the place that he's going to take over the reins? I don't know. Kerry Robinson, he plays backup to Ingram out there in New Orleans. I know some people talking about him. Maybe having good opportunity this year. It could happen, sure. Injury. Maybe he plays real tough. They've kind of liked him on and off through the last couple of years, but he's had his opportunities to take over the reins when there were injuries out there, and he didn't quite do it. He did in small spurts, but not enough. Zach Center, I like. Nice little backup type running back out there in Detroit, but with Joyke Bell and Abdullah sort of handling, I think, a lot of the load, he's going to have to pick his chances to get in there, but possibly has got that coming down the road. He's certainly looked okay in some of the preseason games, not all. Okay, so your offense, you lost Amaro, by the way, too, and Kelvin Benjamin. Those really, really hurt quite a bit. But a good manager overcomes that kind of stuff. Let's look at your defense. You have Tyron Walker, Ian Williams, and Malcolm Brown for DTs. I don't know. We'll have to see what you get out of that. I know you're kind of high on Malcolm Brown, too. I get that impression. New England is not terribly well known for always bringing in their rookies on defense. They run a lot of complex stuff, and they're only going to play the rookie based on what he can do, not what their system necessarily is. So unless Malcolm Brown shows he can do a lot, he's not really going to get into their game plan a lot. So I'm not real impressed with the DTs. I don't think that's a good spot for you. The DE, you have Michael Bennett. Oh my God, how long has he been around? Let me just check his age for a second. Bennett, 29? Okay. Would have guessed he was 31. Mike Daniels, Kendall Langford, Derek Shelby comprise your DEs and nobody else. You know, none of them really jump off the page at me. Michael Bennett, because he's in Seattle and they seem to come from 20 directions at once. He's going to benefit from that some games. I don't know if you're going to get consistency. Mike Daniels out in Green Bay. Green Bay, it seems like they've been searching for so long. I mean, since Reggie White, I feel like, looking for a DE or two that they can rely on in the game to put a lot of pressure on. They've had to manufacture it through, Hawk and other linebackers blitzing and their safeties coming off the edge, and cornerbacks too. Otherwise, they haven't had a real dominant DE, I think, for a long time. I don't know that Mike Daniels is that guy either. So I'm looking really at a DT and DE situation that you can't count consistently week to week that you're going to get rock solid points from those guys. You may have the occasional ones, but are they all going to come together at the same time? I don't know. DEs or linebackers, I think you and I, we share, I use this word already, affinity for our linebackers, because I love picking linebackers. I love scouting them. I love trying to find everything I can about them. For whatever reason, I just like that position. Maybe I'm mentally some type of linebacker who I wish I'd played football and was a linebacker. But I look at what you have here. You seem to go linebackers hard and strong in every single draft, no matter what your needs are. You got Stephen Anthony, Akeem Ayers, Sam Barrington, Michael Kendricks, Travis Lewis, Malcolm Smith, and Michael Wilhoit. And then do you have anyone tucked down here? Nope. Okay. So when I look at this, it was a definite need. Anthony fills a definite need. Barrington's going to be a decent fill-in for the Green Bay. Kendricks is a good one out in Philadelphia, although Akiko Alonso and D'Amico Ryan's in that mix. I think he's going to see maybe a plateau. I don't know if he's going to see a big jump up in his stats. He doesn't seem to be a terribly big play type guy. I don't know. Maybe this is year 3 or 4 for him. I can't remember. He gets that part of his act together and he figures it out. Travis Lewis, I think you're taking a shot on. Malcolm Smith out in Oakland could be a nice little gem for you. Oakland seems to think very highly of him, and there'll be a lot of opportunities for tackles in Oakland, that's for sure. And then Michael Wilhoit, he benefits from all the retirements and injuries out in San Francisco. Again, this is another group of guys that you did a better job of improving from last year. I don't know. Oh, and I'm, of course, skipping Kiko Alonso. So Alonso, Anthony, Barrington, now I'm starting to like Kendricks. That's a solid 4. And then your 5th is kind of a jump ball. I mean, I would say Smith is probably your 5th. But not a lot of depth there. Injuries, bye weeks. You're going to have to manufacture something out of that. When we get to the DBs, you've got Tremaine Johnson, Randall's a rookie, Roby, and Jimmy Smith. And then you got a couple, I think, buried down here. No, wrong again. Okay, so you're going with the Ralph Logano plan. You are treating your cornerbacks like they are garbage, like they're just something you don't really care about, and because you have to have them. They're really a terrible nuisance to you and your squad. And if you could play the game without those cornerbacks, you would, because you got 4 guys. Oh wait a minute, I'm miscounting. I'm looking at it. Sorry, there's a break here, and I'm completely missing this. I take that all back. That's just me. You know me. I don't like those DBs. You actually have 7 of them. Carr, Carroll, Collins, Johnson, Randall, Roby, Smith. Carroll, I guess he's stepping into the Philadelphia spot, so he might get picked on. Collins is a rookie. Is he going to be in the game enough? I don't know that. Tremaine Johnson benefits from injuries out in Seattle or St. Louis. Roby's your star. I don't know. Again, I am gonna go back onto my little talk about how much I dislike those DBs. I feel they're like rolling dice in Vegas. You don't know what you're going to get from year to year outside of a very few select guys. Maybe some of these guys really pop for you. Roby, I think, will continue his pattern. Jimmy Smith has always been pretty solid. They're okay, I guess. And then your safeties, Will Hill, Elam got hurt, so he's in. Kendrick Lewis, Baltimore's going to have to play well on that end, or I guess poorly up front for you to benefit. Honey Badger, real star type guy, can make a lot of plays. I like those types of guys. Is he going to get injured again is the big question. I don't know that his body seems to be NFL durable, but could be wrong there. And then William Moore out in Atlanta, and you've got just 4 and no more. Of course, you only need to start 1, I believe. So that's all you really need. I don't know. See, when I look at your team, again, I've said it about 20 times. Are you better than 6 and 8, which is how you finished last year? Yes, you are. Are you ready to challenge me? No, you're not. Sorry. I'm going to give you a 9 and 5 finish, but I'm giving a lot of that in part because I think that Eric and Mitchie, being absentee owner types on occasion, are going to really help the Toro cause. And they may also help the Rooks cause. All right, so I'm going to talk about my team super fast because I've already yacked enough and everyone hates the winner. So I've got good quarterbacks. Stafford, Wilson, I'm fine there. I still think, do I have somebody else in this team? No, okay. I've got, let's see. I got a pretty good offense, although it's thinner than I've had in past years. But between Ertz, Kelsey, Robinson, Brandon Cooks, Lynch, and Anderson, I've got plenty to put out there that are upper crust, if not star quality types. Pierre Garçon will have his games. I forgot Demaryius Thomas, super stud. So I'm pretty good to go there, and I've got a couple of bit players. DTs, maybe I don't like linebackers as much as I thought. Maybe I've got a big man crush for the DT spot because the last couple of years I've made real good inroads into landing solid DTs. And I want to thank Roto World. Thank you, guys. And that's why I send you $100 every year personally from my account. Thank you for putting Kyle Williams back into the DT spot, not the DE spot. I have Aaron Donald, McCoy, and Williams. I'm rock solid in that spot. I'm expecting 20-plus points from all 3 guys by season's end. Dunlop, Gregory, Wake, and I picked up Flowers. He's obviously going to sit until next year. I'm a little thin now at the E. I've only got 3, so that's a problem area for me. But the 3 I have or at least two of the three I have, Wake and Dunlop, look to be pretty fine. And Gregory had a decent preseason for a rookie, and I think they're going to rotate him in properly, and he'll have a game or two. Will I be lucky enough to have those games? I don't know when I started. On the linebacker side, Demario Davis, Mayo, Ogletree, J.T. Thomas, Timmons, Weatherspoon, Avery Williamson, and Jake Ryan, my rookie, and Shaq Thompson, another rookie. I've got plenty to carry the load there. I've got some salted veterans, and I've got Mason Foster got he lost his job in Chicago. I'm betting good dollars and donuts that he will end up getting picked up by another team that's looking for linebacker help desperately. And I think he'll get stuck in there because his preseason, his camp weren't as bad. I was a little shocked he got cut, but apparently Chicago's going to go even younger than him. My cornerbacks, I don't give a shit about my cornerbacks. Really, I don't. But I will say this. Xavier Rhodes, he's a shutdown type. He may not be the best kind to have fantasy-wise, but I'm going to keep him another year. Alterin Werner, top-notch, top flight, might be in the top 5 of cornerbacks year after year. There's one of the few guys you can count on. LaMarcus Joyner out in St. Louis. I like him. I think he's going to have a good season out in St. Louis. Obviously, I like him because I'm keeping him when there are probably better options out there that I could just pick up. But I think he steps up enough this year to make it worth it. Travis Carey being in Oakland, just by virtue of being in Oakland, that's a great pick to have. A.J. Bouye, I just love his big play style. Real good risking it all type of cornerback. I think he's going to be great this year. And Houston is not going to run very well on offense, so he gets opportunities. And Ben Wickery, I don't know, Ben Wickery, yeah, I guess that's how you say his name. Benny, I think, is another one out in Carolina. He's going to see lots of chances, and I think he is another big play type in the making. He's had a couple years to get his game groomed, and he's ready to go. So my CBs are okay, and if they're not, I'm just going to make trades and changes anyway and pickups. On the safety side, I got McDonald, McDougal, Thomas, Weddle. I mean, Weddle, what is wrong with this league? You know how many times I've tried to include Weddle in a trade offer to seal the deal, or just tried to trade Weddle to get some other player, and I keep putting him in, trying to explain, here's a guy you want, here's a guy that should nail the deal down, and it's amazing. I get rejected year after year after year. I would say at least 5 years in a row I've made offers to trade him, and all he does is put up consistently like 1.5 points every game, if not more. He just keeps ending up at the top of the pile for tackles. He gets his occasional big plays and sacks. I mean, it's ridiculous. I can't seem to trade the guy. So, fine, to my benefit. Thank you very much, everybody. And while I'm doing thank you, Cecil, thank you so much for dropping Desmond Trufant and giving up on him. I actually wanted him when you drafted him, not last year, but I think the year before, or maybe it was last year, but I had my eye on him. I was going to pick him late, but then, of course, 6th-round draft, I was thinking maybe I'd just wait until, see if he slips all the way down. I think you took him much earlier than that. He didn't strike gold immediately, so you couldn't wait. You let him go. I snapped him right up. It was great. We made a little trade, I think, in a way, because I had dropped Sharice Wright at the time, but I was happy to let him go, especially because I was going to get Trufant. So that worked out well. On my bench, I already covered most of them. Eric Berry, I tried to make a trade for him, and I actually was going to let him go pretty cheaply. It looks like he's going to make his way back, so that's nice news, too. And then Josh Gordon, you know, whatever. He's sitting on the bench probably for the rest of his life. His career may be well over, but if he comes back, I think it's good news. So where do I put myself? Where did I even finish last year? This is a great question. Well, I finished a very impressive 8-6 in our conference. Totally dominated. I won by 1 game. My opinion of my team does not change, though, from what I said last year. I do think I'm going to take this division once again. This is not false bravado. This is me looking at the team, looking at the stats. Hell, looking at my point production, I scored 504 points versus no one in my division coming into the 400s. I get that at least one team was rebuilding and making that concerted effort, and so points are going to be, very hard to come by. The other two were not. They were just simply not managed well enough and didn't have the players. That is a gargantuan difference in point total. I suffered from facing, teams that really rose to the occasion to beat my squad. In the end, it all worked out. I made a run through the playoffs and took it. I think I'm going to do the same again, take that division down, get myself into the playoffs. And I don't even know if anyone else in the Colt Division is going to be joining me for the Nathan Hale Conference. Okay? There you go. Our most outstanding division, led by me in both the points and scoring and titles and, well, good looks and, well, sophistication review. Enjoy.